My name is Camille Novak, and I'm 35 years old. Competence in my world isn't something you announce, it's choreography. Every bill, every appliance, every small decision lines up like dominoes, silent, precise, inevitable. At 12:00 a.m., the dishwasher shifts to off-peak because I trained it months ago. The last cell of my budget glows green, steady as a heartbeat. The condo, my condo, deed and utilities in my name, breathes with calm authority. No one toasts ballast. You only notice it when the boat lurches. Tonight it lurched. Ethan, my boyfriend of 4 years, had that loose, easy smile, the one that makes you suspicious the moment it appears. Dinner had been ordinary, light conversation, shared dessert, nothing out of the usual. But that smile, it carried a weight, a secret. 6 hours later, it all became clear. It started small, almost innocuous. I noticed his iPad left unlocked on the counter while I was catching up on work emails. A notification popped up. "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." My first instinct was denial. Maybe it was a mistake, but I couldn't stop myself. I opened the messages. 3 months. Explicit photos. Videos. Plans to leave me once a certain financial target was reached. My personal favorite, a casual joke about how clueless I was. Still thinks she's working late on that Harper account that ended a month ago. LOL. I didn't confront him, didn't cry, didn't throw anything. I just observed, cataloged, and planned. The next 10 days were quiet. I consulted a divorce lawyer discreetly, learned something crucial. In our state, adultery doesn't drastically affect asset division, but it does affect alimony. And in our joint account, I could legally withdraw exactly half without Ethan's consent. So I did. Slowly. $500 here, $1,000 there, transferred into a new account at a separate bank. Over 10 days, I moved precisely $23,000, half of our joint savings, leaving the rest to avoid unnecessary legal scrutiny. I also canceled my portion of the streaming services in my name, changed direct deposit to my new account, removed Ethan as beneficiary on my life insurance, and documented everything meticulously. Screenshots saved in 3 separate locations. Important documents secured. Car insurance? Stopped paying it. The policy expired. Everything was in order. Dinner arrived like clockwork. Ethan sat across from me, Madison at his side, looking uncomfortable, his hand brushing hers too casually. I sipped my wine slowly, letting the tension stretch across the table like a taut wire. Then he said it. "I have something to tell you," Ethan started, a practiced calmness in his voice. "Here it comes. I've been seeing someone else. I'm in love with Madison. I want a breakup." The table went silent. Madison's eyes widened. Ethan's facade flickered. I leaned back, placing my wine glass down deliberately. "I know." Ethan blinked. "You what?" "I've known for 11 days, I said evenly, "since you left your iPad open. Every message, every plan, every little lie." Madison tried to speak, but I held up a hand. "I've seen the photos, the videos, the messages about your financial plans. By the way, Madison, does Ethan's girlfriend know you've been seeing him for 3 months?" Madison gasped, nearly choking on her water. Ethan paled. I can explain," Ethan stammered. "Save it," I said softly. "You've explained enough to yourself already." The irony wasn't lost on me. Here was the man who thought he could manipulate everyone around him, now trapped by his own deceit. Madison's gasp, Ethan's pale face, the subtle chaos, they were all testament to the precision of timing. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I simply let it unfold, letting their reactions speak volumes. Later, when Ethan tried to claim ignorance, to beg or explain, I had my own cards played. Half of our joint savings safely hidden. Legal documents secured, insurance canceled. All assets under my control. I was untouchable, not out of spite, but out of necessity. My life, my stability, my peace, intact. Because in the end, the lurch isn't caused by betrayal alone. It's caused by the quiet, deliberate correction that follows it. And tonight, my boat had righted itself, even as theirs tipped. The day after dinner, I woke up to the usual calm of my apartment. The sunlight fell across the countertops like nothing had changed, but I knew better. Everything had changed. Ethan's texts began immediately. "Camille, please, we can talk. I can fix this. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Madison and I, it was complicated. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Everything was already in motion. Over the next few days, I moved deliberately, quietly. Half of the joint savings, $23,000, was now safely tucked away in an account he couldn't touch. Direct deposits were rerouted. Streaming services, insurance policies, credit cards, all recalibrated. Every line of defense I'd built over years now served another purpose: protection, not revenge. Justice, measured, precise, inevitable. Ethan tried to act casual, as if nothing had happened. I could feel his unease like static in the air. Dinner invitations, casual texts, whispered apologies, all empty gestures. He didn't understand the most fundamental rule. You don't get to manipulate the current while planning to capsize the boat later. I waited for the confrontation at the dinner. We sat across from each other, Madison beside him, her expression a mix of excitement and trepidation. Ethan smiled too easily, his confidence a thin veneer. I wanted to tell you in person, he said, his voice smooth, practiced. I know everything, I said softly. Their reactions were instantaneous. Madison's eyes widened, her hand froze mid-motion. Ethan's mouth opened, closed, words failing. You knew? Ethan's voice wavered. I knew the moment you left your iPad open, I replied. 11 days ago. I've read every message, seen every plan, every betrayal cataloged, every photo, every detail. Silence. Madison's breath caught audibly. Ethan's hands tightened around his wine glass. He started. I held up a hand. Save it. I've already seen enough excuses to last a lifetime. Madison, you might want to take a seat for the next part. I calmly laid out the facts. Half of the joint account was gone, secured legally. Policies, subscriptions, assets, all under my control. Every legal and financial measure calculated, precise, and ready. I wasn't angry. I was methodical. And that's what made it devastating. Madison's jaw dropped. Ethan's confident mask shattered. He had expected confrontation, perhaps tears, perhaps a fight. Not this quiet, impenetrable composure. You think this is punishment? He asked finally. No, I said evenly. This is consequences, natural, predictable, unavoidable. He opened his mouth again, searching for words, for explanations, for apologies. I ignored him. Every frantic glance, every stammer, every flicker of panic told me all I needed to know. By the end of the dinner, the dynamics had shifted entirely. I was calm, unshaken, untouchable. Ethan was exposed. Madison was shocked. And the narrative they had planned, smooth, enticing, controlled, collapsed in a quiet, deliberate wave. Later, I reflected on the irony. The betrayal had been theirs. The calm, calculated response, the restoration of order, was mine. I hadn't needed theatrics, screaming, or public humiliation. Just precision. Just facts. Just me. Because the lurch wasn't caused by betrayal alone, it was caused by the alignment that followed. The shift from chaos to control. The subtle but undeniable gravity of consequence. Stop. Part 2. Highlights Camille's strategic, calm response. Securing assets, asserting control, and orchestrating the confrontation while Ethan and Madison crumble emotionally. It builds tension and sets up the next phase: external manipulation, interference from family, and escalation. The fallout began almost immediately after that dinner. Ethan, desperate, tried every angle: texts, calls, guilt trips, but I didn't engage. I let the chaos unfold on its own. First came his mother, Gloria Harper, storming into my life like she owned it. I saw her coming from a mile away. She marched into my office, chest puffed, eyes blazing. You need to fix this, she demanded, voice sharp. Ethan is a good man. You can't just... Fix what? I asked calmly, letting the words hang. This divorce, this nonsense. Andrea, sorry, Ethan's girlfriend. She made a mistake. She's sorry. She doesn't deserve this, Gloria pressed, waving her arms. I shook my head slowly. Mistake or not, she made her choice. Cheating for months is not a mistake. It's a decision. And I'm not financing someone else's fantasy life. Gloria looked like she'd been slapped. Ethan tried to interject, but I held up a hand. The point was clear. The rules had changed. Meanwhile, Madison's own world was collapsing. She had been counting on Ethan to stabilize her life, to make excuses, to smooth over the consequences. Instead, the tables had turned. She was exposed, humiliated, and utterly dependent on the situation she had helped create. Ethan tried another tactic. He involved his father, Robert, sending private messages filled with manipulation. "Son, can't we work this out? Gloria's overreacting. She's difficult. Let's be reasonable." I read each message carefully, but my answer was the same. Reason had no place in a house built on lies. Over the next week, the escalation continued. Ethan attempted to contest the divorce, claiming emotional distress and financial manipulation. His lawyer, one sympathetic to his mother, filed a motion for emergency spousal support. I prepared meticulously. Employment records, legal documentation, proof of his consistent income, and my own financial security, everything in place. The day of the hearing, Ethan arrived, dressed to evoke sympathy, hoping his lawyer's words could sway the court. I had orchestrated finding out about the affair to maximize financial damage, the lawyer argued, trying to frame my prudence as malicious. The judge, unsurprisingly, laughed. "Counselor, are you suggesting that adultery by your client somehow justifies financial harm from the plaintiff?" The motion was denied. Ethan's last defenses crumbled. Outside the courthouse, Gloria tried one final appeal. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" she spat, accusatory. "No," I said evenly. "I'm just not financing consequences that aren't mine to cover." As the week progressed, Ethan's desperation grew. He reached out to Madison, trying to salvage the relationship, spinning tales of manipulation and obsession. She forwarded every desperate message to me. I didn't need to respond. Their panic was a performance in itself. Ethan's entitlement reached its apex when he attempted financial manipulation. Venmo requests for emotional damages, half of the bills, alimony. I countered with a single, calculated note, 3 months of therapy for myself after the affair. The texts that followed, rage, panic, disbelief, were almost cinematic. And then came the claim that could have destabilized everything. "I'm pregnant," he, or rather, in the original story, Andrea, claimed. But logic held firm. Dates, tampons, past discussions, medical facts, every inconsistency dismantled the lie. There would be no manipulation strong enough to destabilize the structure I had built. By the end of the month, everything had collapsed for Ethan. Madison had moved on. The courts, family, and public exposure ensured he had no remaining leverage. My life, my assets, my dignity, intact. The key lesson was simple. Precision and patience outperform chaos every time. The lurch had passed, but the course was steady again. A month had passed since the dinner. The storm had finally settled. The divorce was finalized quietly, uncontested. Ethan had exhausted every option: legal, emotional, manipulative, and lost. Madison had retreated, humiliated and exposed, her brief fantasy dissolved by her own involvement in the chaos. I kept my condo, my accounts, my life untouched. My paycheck continued uninterrupted. No alimony, no legal complications. Just the calm I had built, one deliberate decision at a time. Ethan's reality had shifted entirely. The man who thought he could orchestrate both my downfall and a secret affair now faced consequences he hadn't considered: loss of trust, loss of leverage, loss of dignity. Every desperate attempt, every claim, every Venmo request, rejected, documented, rendered powerless. I took moments to reflect, to catalog the lessons learned. Betrayal had been vivid, painful, and complex, but its power faded when met with clarity, precision, and patience. The quiet, deliberate response was far more devastating than rage or theatrics could ever be. Gloria called one last time, her voice soft, almost conciliatory. "I hope you're happy." "I am," I said honestly. "Every day without lies is a step forward. Ethan broke himself. I just stopped catching him." The irony wasn't lost. Ethan had chosen chaos over honesty, and Madison had helped him along the way. They had played a game, and they had won the stupid prize. Meanwhile, I had preserved what mattered most: my sanity, my dignity, my life. In the weeks after, my life returned to a quiet normal. No more wondering about secret messages, no more unexpected visits, no more financing someone else's recklessness. Just me, my apartment, and the steady rhythm of life I had cultivated long before the betrayal. Even the digital remnants of Ethan's audacity, texts, Venmo requests, desperate apologies, were harmless now. I archived them all, a reminder that the only power anyone has over you is the power you give them. The final lesson was clear. When someone shows you who they really are, you protect yourself, quietly, precisely, and without compromise. Betrayal, manipulation, deceit, they exist to test the structure of your life. How you respond determines whether your boat lurches or stays steady. And mine, my boat is steady. I sip my coffee in the morning sun, looking out at the city below, calm, collected, free.